thank you for accepting this invitation on behalf of Indian Chamber. I'm Mayank Jalan. I currently am the president of Indian Chamber of Commerce. With your permission, sir, can we open up the session to the participants?
Absolutely, please.
Okay, will the host please let all the participants in?
Sure, sir.
So
Please allow the participants.
I'll do a quick introduction, sir, which is really not required, but I think it's a formality that we have to. And then I would hand it over to Sohail, sir, and it can be a lively session between the both of you. Okay. Participants have started coming in. We are expecting about 300 to 400 people on this session.
और खेर साहब ये कैलकाटा है, इट्स सेरिब्रल, यहाँ लोग पत्थर नहीं पोएट्री करते हैं।
वाह 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 वाह, मगर लास्ट टाइम आपने और मैंने कलकत्ता में क्या किया था वो याद है ना?
हाँ एक गांगुली का तो बैंड बजाया था।
Calcutta Club debate.
The Telegram debate, correct.
Yeah, I did see it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, so with your permission, I think let's start. People will keep joining in. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today's guest really does not need any introduction for two simple reasons. Firstly, because of the body of his work, I can challenge that there is not a single person today on this webinar who does not know him or his work, his characters, and probably even the dialogues of his characters. My personal favorite being Thappar Ki Goonj Rana. And secondly, if I do end up introducing him and all his accolades, I'll probably keep talking for the next half an hour, which I don't want to. So, as we say in movies, Suraj ko roshni dikhana, I'll keep it as short as possible, knowing very well that I won't be doing justice to our eminent guest today, Mr. Anupam Kher. So, on behalf of ICC, it is my honor and privilege to welcome the very talented actor, director, producer, and writer, Mr. Anupam Kher. Sir, it's truly an honor. Mr. Kher has appeared in over 500 films and 100 plays over the span of 35 years. Who can forget his characters in movies such as Salanch, Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, Kalma, Khosla Ka Ghosla, Wednesday, Special 26, and international projects like Silver Linings Playbook, Hotel Mumbai, The Big Sick, the series like Sense8 and New Amsterdam. Mr. Kher is a proud recipient of numerous awards, including the prestigious Padma Shri Award in 2004 and the Padma Bhushan Award in 2016. In addition to his acting career, he established Anupam Kher's Actor Prepares in 2005, a world-renowned acting school. Anupam ji is the only actor in the world who has staged his own biography in the play Kuch Bhi Ho Sakta Hai, which has completed over 400 shows worldwide and is the genesis of his reputation as a motivational speaker, widely sought by corporations and educational institutes such as Harvard, Oxford, MIT, and Kellogg School of Management. In 2019, Mr. Kher was listed as one of the top 10 social media influencers in the world. He was awarded the Dalai Lama Award for his work with the underprivileged children through the Anupam Kher Foundation, founded in 2008, and was also appointed as a UN ambassador for the He for She campaign. And now the reason why I've been hurrying through his introduction is to introduce Mr. Kher as an acclaimed author. He has already published 2 books under his name, Lessons Life Taught Me, Unknowingly, an autobiography, and The Best Thing About You Is You. And sir, your autobiography, which I read in the second week that it came out, was truly amazing. His third book, which has been launched on the 5th of December, and the one that we are celebrating here today, is Your Best Days Today. I got an advance copy. Someone managed to get it to me. It was one of the best, quickest, and easiest reads I've had, and it just lifted my spirits thoroughly. It is a book of his experiences in the raging pandemic that swept the world in 2020. The book has summed up the complete scenario, emotions, learning and unlearning of 2020 in its most realistic state. Some chapters and instances are so relatable that feels like reading a review of the same movie we all saw together on the screen. There are some phrases which each one of us would resonate with. Some are going to stay with me forever. With your permission, sir, may I narrate some? While talking about uncertainty and the importance of staying connected to your loved ones, you said, Life is not what we think it is and does not always go according to our plan. How true is that? The next one goes, Mother Nature gave us this opportunity to begin our journey inwards and find our true selves. This especially resonated with me. How my life has changed over the last 8 months has been incredible. And the last one, let us fall in love with the process of being the best versions of ourselves. And there are endless lines and instances that I've fallen in love with. The insight you gave us from different genres of people, and obviously the most enduring one being from the doctors and then meeting Bittu. Thank you for letting us up and close to an insight of your life. ICC applauds your book and your insights as they echo the theme of our chamber, people, planet, and profit. We have all have some takeaways from your experiences that you have shared, and we are immensely grateful to you for sharing the same with us. The conversation will be moderated by none other than my mentor and guide, someone who has known me and seen me since I was probably 6 years old, uh, and someone who I really look up to for guidance at all junctures. My favorite, our very own favorite, Mr. Sohail Singh. There is nothing that he cannot do. A marketing expert, businessman, an extraordinary writer, splendid actor, keynote speaker, TV and Twitter pundit, and much more. If there's one person that embodies the definition of a complete person, it is Mr. Singh. So without taking any more of your time, I leave the stage to both of you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Anupam Kher and Mr. Sohail Singh. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayank, and good evening to all of you who've joined this very interesting, we hope very interesting webinar. Uh, thank you, Mayank, for even thinking of this as an idea, because we certainly, Anupam and I, have a huge amount of affection for Calcutta. I am still a Calcuttan. I never call myself a Delhi wala. And to do something for Calcutta, for the ICC, is always remarkable. Let me start right away by asking Anupam, who, by the way, I've known now for years. Anupam and I have met across continents. We've met in various cities. We share common passions. We also share seemingly common irritation points with people. So we're fairly similar, except, as you can see, I have a full body of hair, which he sadly doesn't. But we are the same. We are the same in terms of affection for our mothers, respective mothers. Same family orientation. So it gives me a great amount of delight to be in conversation with Anupam. I was one of the first few not only to read this book, but also to review it. So let me begin by asking Anupam again, why this book at a time when people were either putting on weight or divorcing their spouses or getting irritable with life? That's how people coped with the pandemic in the first few months. You decided to jump into this with an exalted sense of energy and purpose. How did that happen?
Sohail, thank you so much. But before I do that, I want to thank ICC and thank you for organizing this session. It makes me feel very important when I am talking to very intelligent people, successful people, especially who know and who think in English, because I don't think in English, I think in Hindi. I went to a Hindi medium school. I think I wrote this book because I was fearful, because I had a sense of uncertainty in my own life when I was going through this pandemic, when I was going through this lockdown. I was unsure of things, like all of us were. And the only way I thought I will be able to fight it is to see silver linings in the dark clouds. I'm an eternal optimist, you know about that. And I needed to feel that world is fine and that whatever is happening is ultimately going to be something rewarding. And that I felt when in Mumbai, I've been living for the last 39 years. And on the third day of my quarantining, I heard birds chirping outside my window. And I heard a quail doing cuckoo. In fact, so much so that I started whistling back to her. And I would like to do that right now so that you understand to be able to hear that in Mumbai, traffic jams, shor sharaba. So it was so amazing, and I felt no, world is beautiful. And then I for the first time saw a blue sky in Mumbai. So I was basically drowning my own fear by writing about it. I was making a chronicle of my life during the pandemic. And as I was writing it, I was feeling better and better and better. Also, writing helps me in learning my lines. When I'm doing theater or cinema, where I have long lines, somehow or the other, the only way I can remember my lines is by writing them down, because then it gets registered. I did not know that I was going to set out to what is the book going to be called. I did not know what next day is going to happen. I did not know what is going to happen after 1 week. But I realized there were certain realizations coming. I knew that I want to write a book which will make people feel better, because this was the most fearful thing that we had gone through. So I discovered that there are only three things that you need in this pandemic, or it made you realize that first thing that you wanted to do was you wanted to go to your near ones. You wanted to be with your family, with your parents, with wives or husbands or dear ones or just friends. You just wanted to be close with very close people. The second thing that I think we needed was essential commodities. कि चूल्हा जलना चाहिए, गैस होनी चाहिए, तेल मिलना चाहिए, रोटी सब्जी दाल चावल वगैरह मिलना चाहिए. तीसरा वाईफाई चलना चाहिए, बस और कुछ नहीं चाहिए. तो ये सब चीजें होते होते I think this is why I wrote. It started with fear and it ended with optimism.
But I want to take you back to a comment that you made when you said you were fearful.
Yeah.
Human civilization has been dogged by two things: the audacity of hope and the strangeness of loss. You're always worried. Oh my God, will I lose money? Will I lose lives? Will I do this? Will I do that? And obviously, the world has gone through many crises. This perhaps, Anupam, in living memory and because of media ka shor sharaba, is the only occasion or the only incident in recent human history which went across the world.
Yes.
It did not recognize caste. It did not recognize income, no strata, no creed, no religion, no linguistic issues. So it created worldwide phenomena of fear, of uncertainty. Do you think there is anything within our structure in India, perhaps because of our resilience, perhaps because of who we are culturally or civilizationally, that has helped us cope better, that has prompted people like you to actually write rather than mope, people like you to move out rather than be confined and say, oh, main to mar gaya, main to mar gaya? Do you see something about the Indian resilience which came to play during this pandemic?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks to our thousands and thousands of years of culture, the scriptures, the philosophy, which we don't practice in day-to-day life, which we do not even realize it, that we have that. The stories of our epics, Mahabharata, the story, the karm kiye ja phal ki ichha mat kar from Bhagavad Gita. We have survived 1,000 years of rule by foreigners, 800 years of Mughal rules and 200 years of. Why is it that we are special? It came across during this unfortunate period of pandemic. But thank God, हमारे में एक सहन शक्ति है, हमारे अंदर से एक सहानुभूति की फीलिंग है. ये हिंदुस्तान की खासियत है कि हिंदुस्तान ने और जहां पर रहने वाले लोगों ने इस पूरे पेंडेमिक में एक अमेजिंग सबूत दिया इस बात का कि एनिमी, if I have to call virus enemy, is unknown. I was 7 years old when India-China war happened. We were frightened. It's not the first time we had fear. It's not the first time we encountered fear. Fear is something which keeps happening. But our totality, the power that we have, the sanskar that we somehow showed in the look at how the whole country came together just by one call of the Prime Minister. We followed it, and he behaved like the head of the family. अब क्या होते थे, दादाजी बोलते थे ना, जब 65 वॉर हुआ, 75, सबको अंधेरे में जब सायरन बजेगा सबको इस खाई में उतरना है. We needed somebody to sort of refer to that कि यार ये जो बोल रहे हैं सच बोल रहे हैं. We looked up at something like that. Forget about that. I think the inner resilience, the word that you used, resilience, was in the forefront during this time. When I was in America, I shot this whole series over there. They used to say, India has handled this very well. ऐसा नहीं कि हमारे यहाँ deaths नहीं हुई, ऐसा नहीं कि हमारे यहाँ tragedy नहीं हुई हैं, मगर somehow we have given this message to the world that this is how we deal with situations like that. We suddenly are the big brothers of the world. It somehow has translated into that. हमारे यहाँ बहुत सारी कितनी सारी चीजें हुई, the migrants का पलायन हुआ, बाकी सारी चीजें हुई और हजारों चीजें हुई हैं, मगर somehow in my heart of heart I felt secure. Of course, my mother, my brother and my sister-in-law and their daughter, they had COVID positive, but there was hope. एक तो होती है hope की हर चीज की, I'm an optimistic person, so I believe in hope. But there is something called inner strength with hope, which was displayed during this pandemic.
So there's one thing about being in your own country amongst your own people when something like this hits you. It's quite another being in a foreign country when this thing, appears. You were in New York. What were the days of March 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 like? Because you took the flight on the 19th of March, if I remember your book right. And you took that 14-hour flight on an Air India aircraft. What were those 4 preceding days? Because you obviously were worried about your mom, you were worried about your brother, the entire family. What went through your mind? Did you feel helpless? Did you feel hopeful? Or did you feel uncertain?
We live in 2020. 2020, the man is trying to, people are trying to reach the Mangal Gyan and Mangal this thing, and हमारे पास इतना सब कुछ है. We don't really think that something can affect worldwide. The whispers, I had never heard of word pandemic. I had heard the word epidemic, but pandemic, the lockdown, when these things, and we were shooting in hospitals. It's a hospital show that I used to do over there. New Amsterdam is a hospital show. It's on the 14th or 13th or 14th, we were shooting in a hospital that I saw fear on everybody's face of the unknown. And there were whispers going on that today may be the last day of the shoot. And I also saw the crowd thinning on the streets of New York. I was in panic. And my friends and my family were calling from India, "Tu aaja, flight band ho jayegi. Please come and take a flight." My friend Anil Kapoor said, tomorrow, day after, the flights are stopping. I had to finish one podcast, so I was staying back. There was fear, there was panic, and there was confusion in my mind. Confusion because of the fear. Confusion because how I did not realize that how can it be possible? We were reading what happened in China. We were reading that how Spain was getting affected, how European countries, which are supposed to be the most powerful countries where they have all kinds of facilities. I saw videos. I remember this video of Wuhan. There was this man who went to a store and the whole streets and everything was empty. So I boarded the flight on the 19th of March with that feeling. And I like to be recognized in public places. I think I became an actor because I wanted people to say, "Oh, jara Anupam Kher." I was very unhappy when I did Saransh at the age of 28 and I played an old man. Nobody used to recognize me. I used to stand outside Metro Cinema and people will say, "Kya kamal ki acting ki hai buddhe ne?" And I'm stand there and sort of say that it's me. So when I went to Newark airport, usually all the Gujaratis and Punjabis travel in that flight from Newark to New Jersey to, there are 300 people. And I have to run from one place to another. And there were people, because of the thing, they were not interested in taking pictures. There was no first class lounge or business class lounge. I was sitting in the thing. And there was this silent flight from Newark to Mumbai of 14 hours. So my period in the last 1 week at New York was full of uncertainty, fear, confusion, or what is happening. That's what I'm saying, that the unknown, the fear of the unknown is very, very frightening. And when I reached Mumbai, I had never seen Mumbai airport so empty, so deserted. And when I came out of the airport, it was like a Will Smith film, I Am Legend, where world has come to an end, and you are not seeing anybody on the streets. My friend was Anil Kapoor usually says hello to me before my house.
वो भी डर गया था.
वो डर गया तो उसने कहा मिलना मत, अभी 14 दिन मत मिलियो. My own son
So
opened this much of the door.
much for Mr. India.
हाँ जी.
He's not even Miss India, given what he did. But anyway, he's a friend of all of us. तो उसकी अभी बैंड नहीं बजाएंगे बेचारे का.
नहीं, but I think he did an intelligent thing. I would have not wanted him to talk. I also was so scared.
So you come back to India. You're obviously worried about three things that have happened. Number one, the stuff that you left behind in terms of unfinished work, apartment, blah, blah, blah. Then you come here, and when you arrive at the airport, you see an eerie silence. When you come home, you see people of your staff greeting you with trepidation. Then when you enter the house, because of the jet lag, you get up early and you're at cross purposes, not knowing, what's happening. What was the metamorphosis that Anupam Kher, the confident man, went through in that 24 hours after landing in Mumbai? You were home, you were in your house, but yet the uncertainty was hanging in the air.
There are बहुत अच्छी 3-4 लाइनें हैं एक गजल की जो मैं आपको सुनाता हूँ, जो शायद आपके सवाल का जवाब दे सके. मैं ऐसे जमघटे में खो गया हूँ जहां मेरे सिवा कोई नहीं है. खुली है खिड़कियां हर घर की, लेकिन गली में झांकता कोई नहीं है. रुकूं तो मंजिलें ही मंजिलें हैं, रुकूं तो मंजिलें ही मंजिलें हैं, चलूं तो रास्ता कोई नहीं है. I was in that state of mind. Means I knew that there are people, my domestic help is making food in the kitchen. I knew that Sikandar is in the next room. I knew that 20 minutes away is my mother and my brother. But I was still not able to communicate with them because of their own fear, because of their own sense of insecurity, uncertainty. And ye bhi nahi tha, this was not the kind of issue where we could sit together and hold hands. Holding hand was the last thing that we could do. Giving a hug to anybody was the last thing that we could think. We had to be physically away. And because we are physically away, your fear is double. And also, I didn't want to sort of move around in the house, not that I have a huge house. Sitting room to my bedroom. My bedroom and बाहर भी जो है, खिड़कियों में सड़क पे कोई traffic नहीं है. I'm used to I like noise. As a person, I don't like solitude. I will go to a holiday where there is a city holiday. I don't go to Pahad or don't go to Samundar ke kinare par.
You should try Bada Bazaar for your next holiday in Calcutta.
I would love to do that. I love Calcutta because of the crowds, because of the chaos over there. I don't know. I've not been there for a long time. I love Calcutta because it's always hustling and bustling with activity. I like Mumbai because it's always like that. मैं शायद छोटे शहर में पैदा हुआ हूँ, मुझे शामें बहुत अजीब लगती थी, मुझे दोपहर अच्छी लगती है, मॉर्निंग अच्छी लगती है. और यहाँ मुंबई जैसे इलाके में, जुहू में, मेन रोड पर कोई नहीं था. जो खिड़कियां थी उनसे भी ऐसा लगता था कि लोग डरे हुए हैं. You see, 50 years later, when people will get to know about this story, their reaction will be the same. What is our reaction of Spanish flu in 1918?
Correct.
How those pictures became viral and people are wearing this thing. We could not think. People will not be able to think about 10 years later that something like this, that you and I and all those people who joined us in this session were. But this is the truth. I can't be brave. I can't pretend to be brave when I do not know what am I frightened of.
Excellent. I want to come to a point that you have mentioned in the book on repeated occasions. it's the relationship between Dulari ji and you. For those who don't know, Dulari ji is Anupam's mother, Anupam and Raju's mother. And you have re-examined that relationship in the context of COVID.
Yes.
You very succinctly and eloquently define and relate the incident that happened in hospital. When you took her out, you didn't tell her ki kya hua, you didn't tell her about Raju's condition. So I have two questions here. Number one, did it help you revisit that relationship with your mother and brother? Number two, do you think human relationships have altered because of COVID in some form or the other? For positive or negative, I don't know. But has the kernel of human relationship altered?
I am very fortunate and touch wood for that I have a great relationship with my mother and my brother and my family members. And we don't pretend to having a relationship. We don't do the acting of relationships. I'm not saying that anybody does it, but हमारे बड़े जबरदस्त open relationship. The fact that we came from a poor family, that we're not so educated, but the best thing about our family was or is that we are very straight with each other. We are very affectionate. We tell each other that we love each other. So it was not that it was going to alter. It was my helplessness to explain to my mother what had happened, because me and my brother had taken out my mother after a period of 8 months being locked up in her house, not even coming to the elevators, not coming to the corridor of the house, just being there. So she was complaining of some problem, a cyst in her, near her kidney or near her, a cyst. It was a big cyst which was there. And we said, Chalo, we'll get you CT scan done of this and come for a drive with us. So she did not even take the phone. Now, mother's best security is when her two sons are taking her out. She knows that I am secure. I am in the best of situations. And we took her and she was very happy. And usually in today's time, you don't really have all the family members together. This was one of those few moments when she had her Ram Lakhan or Karan Arjun type of thing, if I have to give similes of cinema, with her. And silent bonding was happening. We took her, we were making her laugh. Mama, ye dekho, ye samundar hai. We were joking about it. We went there, doctor said, okay, we will do the CT scan. When doctor came out, he said, जी, मुझे तो लगता है वो जो cyst है वो benign लगती है, मगर मैडम को, माता जी को COVID है. This was the last thing we had expected, because there was no sign. Later on, we got to know that not feeling hungry is also one of the signs of COVID.
Correct.
But she used to complain कि मुझे भूख नहीं लगती है. Now the point was, she had seen on television this प्रकोप of COVID. So that was the last thing we were going to tell her, that this is what the doctor told us. But I quietly, and mothers are very intuitive, she knew that something was wrong. क्या हुआ है? कुछ नहीं मम्मी, आपको शायद कुछ टेस्ट वेस्ट करा.
राजू क्यों नहीं मिलने आया?
नहीं, वो तो जब हॉस्पिटल गए, मैंने राजू को कहा, राजू हम साथ में आए हैं, तू तो साथ में रहता है, तू भी करा ले अपना टेस्ट, मैं भी करा लेता हूँ. दोनों ने टेस्ट कराया, राजू का पॉजिटिव निकला, मेरा नेगेटिव निकला. I felt so guilty in my life. I felt unbelievably guilty that how do I do that? Now the point was, the doctor said, इनको घर नहीं ले जाओ वापस ही, आप इनको सीधा हॉस्पिटल ले जाओ. How do we tell our mother that we have come for a drive, but now you're going back to the hospital rather than home? So I told Raju, तू घर जा, बाकी लोगों का टेस्ट करा, and I took her to the emergency room. Emergency room, this is in early June. They were not letting you, a family member, up to in the ward. Correct. And also my mother feels my son is Anupam Kher. He can get anything done. Means it is a man who's worked for 36 years. People say namaste to me. I've done 517 films. But when I left her in the emergency ward outside, and I said, I can't come with you, that taking her, wheeling her to near the lift was the most traumatic thing for both of us. And there was a silent understanding. But our mothers are made of steel. They have an amazing sense of, and also mothers are very giving. वो बच्चों को नहीं महसूस कराती कि मैं insecure.
Correct. कि हाँ हमें पेन है, करेक्ट.
हमें नहीं बेटा कोई बात नहीं, तू जा, तू ऐसे चल, which is very very sad. And then I told then I got to know my brother has COVID, my sister-in-law has COVID, their daughter has COVID, and not the son was luckily negative. Then the 6-7 days of this whole isolation room, etc., etc. And finally, when I was going to go to her, previous day I called her up. I said, I thought to myself, maybe she should stay for 1 or 2 more days. I called her up. I said, Mom, आप रुकोगे? She got violent in her conversation. She said, तू अगर कल मुझे नहीं लेने आया 5 बजे, मैं ये खुद चली जाऊंगी, मैं टैक्सी ले लूंगी और राजू के घर पहुंच जाऊंगी और तब तक दरवाजा खटखटाती रहूंगी जब तक वो दरवाजा नहीं खुलेगा. That was the one of the very few times my mother really said filmy dialogues to me. I said, नहीं मैं आ जाऊंगा. मैं गया, मैं 5 बजे की जगह 3 बजे पहुंच गया. She was all set waiting for me, and we have a family joke with each other. There was a movie of Joginder called Ranga Khush. मतलब when somebody is happy, we use that term. So I told my mother, I said, Mom, Ranga Khush? She said, Ranga Khush. And on the way, I had to tell her that, Mom, you had COVID because now you don't want to follow your daily routine. Don't get up at 6 o'clock and go into the kitchen because there is somebody, Raju also had COVID, etc., etc. But those 8 days, I've thought about millions of families whose family members had COVID. Because isolation. और उससे पहले हमारे दोस्त, आपके दोस्त, ऋषि कपूर, Irfan Khan, my yoga teacher's husband, who was my very dear friend, the death was happening. Death was becoming more of statistics than and real emotional loss. So how do I find positivity in this? The doctor who was treating her, he was so calming. There was a lady who met me downstairs. She said, "आपकी मम्मी दुलारी रॉक्स है ना?" I said, "जी दुलारी नाम है, आप लोग हम लोग दुलारी." कहते हैं, "बड़ी अच्छी, फिक्र मत करो, ठीक हो जाएगी." मैंने कहा, "आप यहाँ क्या कर रहे हैं?" "ये मेरे फादर हैं, कैंसर से पीड़ित." So when you see the bonding of people, somehow or the other, the goodness always comes back to you. We have to find, Sohail, we have to find goodness in the worst situations. We had become completely, we were human beings, but we have become completely inhuman in our greed to acquire the land, acquire the earth. We forgot that there are other inhabitants of this Mother Earth also. So when I initially inside in the house, I used to feel हम लोग जो हैं वो जू में हैं जानवरों की तरह और जानवर जो हैं वो खुलेआम बाहर
हैं. Interesting. Now, I was asked to advise, and I obviously told them, but you know, हमारी सरकार तो किसी की बात नहीं सुनती, सिर्फ मोदी जी की बात सुनती है. I said, you should always say that what India has shown the world is a prem-demic in the times of a pandemic. You have shown love and affection. The poorest of the poor were helping migrant labor. आपकी इंडस्ट्री में कितने लोग आए, बाहर आए और उन्होंने कहा कि हम मदद करेंगे लोगों की.
Absolutely.
तो ये जो प्रेम का माहौल था, जो हमारे फ्रंट लाइन वर्कर्स ने दिखाया और आज भी दिखा रहे हैं, जो डॉक्टर्स ने किया है और आज भी कर रहे हैं, इंडस्ट्री ने किया है. आई रिमेंबर इन innumerable conversations, both with Mukesh Ambani and with Mr. Tata, on what we should be doing in terms of, settling people or helping people. Reliance put together a COVID hospital in 14 days. It was the first COVID hospital in India. Mr. Tata said, we will divert and we will pause, all the stuff that we had already committed to and actually divert funds to make sure that COVID testing and all of that happens. So, point I'm making is, whether you're the richest person, the largest conglomerate, or the poorest, everyone came together and helped. I told Smriti Irani, I said, I may not agree with the policies of the BJP at times because some of them are really stupid. But what you did was, Modi invigorated an entire nation. We are now the largest net producers in the world of masks and PPE kits. तो ये जो अवेकनिंग है भारत में, जो प्रेम का भाव है, जो प्रेम की एक लहर है, how do you think going forward? Because you're not just an actor, Anupam, you're also a thinker, you're a you're an alive citizen. You're not a passive citizen. How do you think this is going to help the future of India? Will it change? As you rightly said, we were surrounded by greed. Will this move from greed to give?
So I think, first of all, I think that the word that you've coined, uh, pandemic, I think is fantastic. That describes what we are made of. Uh, and also, change is very silent. It cannot be seen overnight. The impact that India or the way Indians have behaved or dealt with this whole situation in the times of pandemic will be seen in the next maybe 4 years, 5 years. People, हमको जल्दी में थोड़ा यार, इसमें जल्दी में हमें थोड़ा पता लग सकता है. हमको इतने साल 70-72 साल लगे यहाँ तक पहुंचने में, मगर इस पूरे मौके पर हमने इस बात का प्रमाण दिया है, इस बात का एग्जाम्पल दिया है that we are the people that we are. So I think there are possibilities that if we don't, I also call it सागर मंथन में बोलते थे कि वो जो मंथन होता था, चर्निंग होती थी, उसमें विष भी निकलता है और अमृत भी निकलता है. तो ये तो चेंज आना ही आना है. अगर अभी भी हमने अपने आप को चेंज नहीं किया या चेंज नहीं हुए, तो फिर तो कोई देयर इज नो फ्यूचर फॉर मैनकाइंड. आई थिंक इंडिया, एज यू सेड राइटली, और हमारे यहाँ प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि शोर मचाने वाले ज्यादा हैं और जो अपना भी काम जो करते हैं ना, वो कहते हैं ना कि अपनी मुर्गी दूसरे के घर जाके अंडा दे तो हम मुर्गी पड़ोसी को क्या कह सकते हैं.
करेक्ट.
प्रॉब्लम इज दैट हम अपनी चीज का डिंडोरा नहीं पीटेंगे कि कितना कमाल का काम कर रहे हैं, हम क्या नहीं कर रहे हैं उसका ज्यादा पीटा जाएगा. तो ये कभी कभी तो ये शर्म की बात है. मतलब everybody should feel pride of the fact that we have dealt with this situation with great amount of courage, compassion and love. We have. But how will we remember with this people, with if we were to given, if some people were given to this possibility, अरे ये नहीं हुआ, ये नहीं हुआ, ये नहीं हुआ, ये नहीं हुआ. अरे ऐसे ये नहीं हुआ मतलब जो हुआ है उसको नोट करो ना पहले. ऐसा दुनिया में कोई भी है जिसने सिर्फ अच्छा ही काम किया? दुनिया में कोई भी ऐसा लीडर है जिसकी सिर्फ तारीफ हुई है? हम तो भगवान को क्रिटिसाइज करते हैं यार कि ये ऐसा कैसे हो सकता था, ये ऐसा कैसे होता था. हम तो धोबी को खुश करने के लिए हमने सीता जी का वो किया था, क्या क्या कहते हैं, अग्नि परीक्षा की. हम गांधी जो हमको कहते हैं कि जो मूर्ति थी एक शांति की, उनको क्रिटिसाइज करते हैं. सो पहली बात तो इस बात को क्लियर हो जाना चाहिए कि आई डोंट गेट बॉक्ड डाउन बाय पीपल हु आर प्रोफेशनल क्रिटिसाइजर्स.
करेक्ट.
दे आर प्रोफेशनल.
We have enough in
दे आर
India.
प्रोफेशनल. उनका काम ही है. जैसे शादी में एक आदमी हमेशा रूठा होता है, बुआ जी का, फूफड़ जी या मामा जी, मासड़ जी, वो हर चीज मैनू नहीं मिला जी, या नहीं मिला, और मेरे को खाना नहीं गया, मेरी इज्जत नहीं की, मेरे को पहले फोटो नहीं खिंचवाई, मेरे को माला नहीं डलवाई. वो उसका का तो उसको सब इग्नोर करते हैं. इट्स टाइम दैट वी इग्नोर द प्रोफेशनल क्रिटिसाइजर्स इन दिस कंट्री एंड फील हैप्पी एंड प्राउड द फैक्ट that we have such an amazing country and we have displayed that in this difficult time of pandemic.
Do you think this pandemic actually helped us in a way? It helped us reconnect. It helped us refocus, recalibrate. I'll tell you what happened with me. I have a daughter who's now 1 year, 11 days. I would never have spent the kind of time that I did with her. I would have never read as much as I did again. I've always been reading, but I read 20 times more. I got to talk about the past with my mother. You know, ki, oh, un dino kya hota tha, bauji kya bolte the, all of that.
Exactly.
So obviously there's also a lot of good that's come out of it, and the bad we know. In your life, what were the things that you discovered during these times that you never imagined you would one day discover?
That I'm not so impatient as I thought I was. That I'm not so restless that I thought that I was. You know, when you reach 60, the thought of death starts bothering you. I think so. At least it started bothering me. It used to in the last 4 5 years. कि अरे यार मेरे father जब थे वो 84 थे, तो that means I have 24 years more. or so and so. Ye dimag. And so I never used to talk about this topic. I used to run away from it. There's a chapter on death in this book.
I know.
I got liberated by that. I never thought I will take a social media detox. I did for that for them. So when you do these things which you think you will never be able to do, you feel so liberated, and there's a sense of amazing happiness that comes into your mind. I took a pause. I listen to now more people, I'm sure, because otherwise you are in a habit of telling your point of view. I was letting you finish this every question that you did, and I was very happy, impressed with myself. Otherwise, halfway through, I want to point. Everybody wants to put a point of view, but that is that I'm not a restless person. Initially, maybe I was going fast nowhere, but now I know that I'm going slowly, but somewhere.
But tell me, you've always worked. You haven't taken a day off. You mentioned that in the book. You've always been busy. I've always been busy. I've never had time for anything. I mean, I've had time, but in the sense, you're always occupied. You're either reading, writing, speaking, blah, blah, blah. When you suddenly have all the time in the world, what did you feel in the initial days?
I had never taken an off for 36 years. Never. You would have, nobody will tell you कि अनुपम 10 दिन की छुट्टी पर कहीं चला गया. कहीं मैं गया ही नहीं. Not because मुझे लगता है कि when you are doing something which you love, you don't need holidays. It's a holiday.
Correct.
Can you repeat the question once again?
I'm saying, how did you manage when you're so busy otherwise? How did you come to terms with the fact that you didn't have too much to do? That you had so much of time?
I made a routine of myself. My grammar school teacher, Mr. Al-Qazi, used to say, when you have nothing to do, make a routine of that. Make a timetable of that. कि 10 से 11 बजे तक मैं सामने वाले दरवाजे को देखूंगा. 11 बजे तक मैं छत पर कितनी टाइल्स हैं इनको गिनूंगा. Put yourself into a regime. I put myself into a regime. I said, okay, alternate days I will do yoga, alternate days I will do exercise. I will be fitter person by the time this pandemic is over, and that's what I achieved. I used to have a slightly knee pain. My knee had got a little injured. I did so much yoga that I'm a little better. I started doing this, making these videos, and also I noticed my breathing. What we do, what is usually called by pranayam or what is called by meditation is basically noticing your breathing. इस pandemic में पूरे world ने सामूहिक together meditation किया.
I know. I did a session with Sri Ravi Shankar,
Exactly.
where we had 2.5 million people from across the world.
Exactly.
2.5 million. I mean, it's bizarre.
I had a picture of my 10th grade class of 57 students. होती ना ऐसे खिंचाते थे photograph, black and white picture. Principal बीच में होता था और एक class teacher सामने होती थी.
वो अनिल दत्ता को phone किया.
Oh my God, you have an elephant's memory, यार. That's amazing. मैंने उसमें से 38 लोगों को phone किए और जो मैंने conversations किए हैं, it was such a mundane but most enjoyable, tasty conversation that I could ever have. The joy that I gave them, double the joy I got from talking to them. I think that's what everybody did. That's what every person wanted to convey. We came closer. Your daughter will remember your stories all her life. Otherwise, याद है शक्ति कपूर ने एक दिन जोक मारा था कि वो इतना काम करता था. When we were working together once, he said मैं बहुत काम करता था. तो एक दिन तो मेरे बच्चे मुझे सिर्फ संडे वाले दिन देखते थे. तो एक दिन वो थर्सडे को उसका काम 6:30 बजे खत्म हो गया तो ही केम होम. तो उसकी बेटी ने दरवाजा था खोला, छोटी सी थी, उसने कहा मम्मी संडे वाले अंकल आए हैं.
Superb. Superब.
इस पैंडेमिक में उसमें there was no Sunday wala uncle. Parents were sitting together, but children were asking their parents. That's what I tell everybody, and that's what I want to tell everybody, that parents should tell their stories to their children. Not only stories of ek kauwa tha, ek mendak tha, ek ye tha. They should tell their stories, because everybody who is in this, who has joined us, if they are the first generation people, I know in such clubs, ICC वगैरह में बड़े young billionaires वगैरह होते हैं, but I think everybody has a story for a biopic, where they started. Sohail, you have an amazing story of your biopic. Where did you come from? What did you learn? How did you become from what to what? All this is very important to tell our children. I think people got in this pandemic a possibility of telling their story to their children. And bond जो होता है ना, वो दिखाई नहीं देता. Bond का color नहीं होता, red color, blue color bonding. Bond
Correct.
का color जो होता है वो silent होता है, मोहब्बत का color होता है. वो नजर आएगा 3 साल बाद, 4 साल बाद.
So as we wind down, we are at 6:20. We've got another 10 minutes to go. I want to just take a few questions, but don't ask me silly questions like when can Anupam ji sign my book and all that. Okay, those questions you direct to parliamentarians.
I want to answer that silly question.
Okay, then you answer it.
No. For
How
me,
would I get his signed copy? How would you sign the copy now?
well, I think they should coordinate with Herman. Herman is my manager and CEO. His email is Herman HERMAN @anupamkhercompany.com.
उसका तो बैंड बजा दिया आपने. अब इतनी emails आएंगी वो बेचारे का तो. I thought you'd give his mobile number if you really hated him.
Well, in this conversation, I also need to do the marketing of the book. The book is important.
ये बात है बॉस, ये मार्केटिंग की तो आप बाप हो.
आपसे सीखा मैंने ये. आपने मेरे पहला इंटरव्यू किया, आपने पहला, you were one of the very first people who gave me the review that you gave me. It's fantastic. So नहीं, I also think my father used to say the easiest thing in the world is to make somebody happy. If Nikhil is saying that, Nikhil Pandya is saying that मुझे बताओ मैं आपकी किताब.
Very sweet.
It's very important to make him happy. And anybody else happy. Just write to Herman @anupamkhercompany.com. I'll sign it and send it to you.
Now, there is another question which says, when will you write a film? Or are you expecting one of your books to get converted into one?
I would like my autobiography to be made into a series because film में उसको जोड़ना बड़ा मुश्किल है. बहुत अच्छी लंबी life है. Because my autobiography is a sum total of my failures. Even in my motivational lectures, I talk about power of failure. My father at a very young age, when I was in 9th standard, told me that failure is an event, never a person. So I think if somebody has to make a series, it will be interesting to make a small Simla boy bit to...
Who will play Anupam Kher?
Well, I am, for the most of the period, I was 28 when I played a 65-year-old man.
Yeah, but boss, at 65, you can't play a 28 unless you're Shah Rukh Khan around a tree, na? वो equation तो चलता नहीं है.
वो तो फिर बिल्कुल ही नहीं कर सकता है, with all due respect to him. But कोई ना कोई मिल जाएगा. बड़े आजकल नए लोग बड़े मिल जाएंगे, कोई अच्छे मिल जाएंगे. It depends on my director Neeraj Pandey, who made the films like Special 26 and Wednesday or Baby. He had once told me that he would want to make a series. So if he makes it, I'm sure he will think about who will want to do that. Not from necessity. I think it should be a newcomer.
Coming to films and your passion of theatre, which both of us share. I've done 167 plays. You must have done millions of plays yourself. Do you feel that ये जो आज भीड़ है, ये दौड़ है कि भाई हम लोग ने थिएटर करना है, ये फिल्म्स करनी है, has theatre been given the short shrift? I was talking to Nasir about 3-4 weeks ago. He was shooting here in Goa to Nasiruddin. And one thing I like about Nasir is, जो हो वो theatre कभी नहीं छोड़ता. He's like you. He's always doing a play. He's just done a brilliant production of Einstein. So I'm saying, you and I are theatre lovers. Our origins are in theatre. Do you think theatre slid?
You see, our grandmothers used to make food on angithi. When pressure cooker came and gas came, we got rid of the... But theatre kabhi nahi marega. Because theatre ki ek पुख्ता हम तो we are the first 4th century BC में हमने भरत मुनि ने लिख दिया था नाट्य शास्त्र. वो कैसे? It's the need of people to communicate one to one. But right now, I don't think for 5-6 months to 1 year it will be possible to have gathering of audiences, live experience of theatre and actors, something like that. But it's nothing can. ये हर नया आदमी ये बोलता है, अरे ये गड़बड़ हो गया, अब फिल्में बर्बाद हो जाएंगी, अब ये कोई नहीं सकता. ये ट्रेडिशंस सदियों से चले आ रहे हैं. बट ये है कि people are excited about television. जब वो टेप आया था, रिमेम्बर, तो VCR,
Correct.
तो सब हम टेलीविजन वालों ने कहा था टेलीविजन खराब हो जाएगा, खत्म हो जाएगा, अब डिजिटल आ गया. बट द पॉइंट इज द मेन फॉर्म इज नॉट चेंज्ड. VCR पे पहले पिक्चर देखते थे, अब हम डिजिटल पे पिक्चर देखते हैं, पर पिक्चर तो है ना, मूवी तो बनानी पड़ेगी ना. खाना चाहे आप माइक्रोवेव में गर्म कर रहे हो या आप अंगीठी पे गर्म
पर
कर,
मूंग दाल तो मूंग दाल ही रहेगी.
दाल रहेगी. बल्कि हम वापस जाते जा रहे हैं अभी. जो
हाँ.
पहले पोस्टर, जो पहले हम मुहावरे बोलते थे, अब वो हमारी टी शर्ट पे लगे होते हैं. सजना फेर मिलांगे, तू चल मैं आई. आज आजकल टीवी इस पे लिखा होता टी शर्ट पे,
करेक्ट.
ओके टाटा बाय बाय.
हाँ, पहले वो ऑटो पे या ट्रक के पीछे लिखा होता था. I have, as we wind down, I reflected deeply on your book. And I reflected not on what was written alone, but why it was written and what is its resonance. And I see a great umbilical cord between who we are in India today and what the book tells us. And I believe, Anupam, that India has come out remarkably well, brilliantly, if I may say so, during this crisis.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't want to belong to any other country. I wouldn't want to belong to a country which had an idiot as its president. I wouldn't want to belong to a country which has a flip-flop prime minister like the UK does. For me, it's been a great validation of a resurgent India and of a more confident Indian. What is your message to all the people who are on this webinar, young and old, people who are acclaimed professionals? What would you like them to be in the context of great citizenship of India?
I think they should all celebrate being Indians. हमारे पासपोर्ट पे हमारे नाम के बाद हमारी नेशनैलिटी होती है और हम खुशकिस्मत हैं. मैं हमेशा बाहर जाता हूं, मैं जब बाहर रहता, अब तो the fact that I decided that I will come back and work in India now and not go back to New York is in itself, because the 8 months that I spent here in Mumbai, even though alone or sense of loneliness, insecurity, I felt that I am in a country where people have a value for people. ये कुछ हम मीडिया और बाकी चीजों ने, सोशल मीडिया ने हमको इतना बॉग डाउन कर दिया है कि हमको अपनी इंपॉर्टेंस का एहसास ही नहीं रहता है
और नेगेटिव कर दिया है.
नेगेटिव कर दिया है.
There's too much anger in India now. Too much of anger.
Vocal about, we should be, the subtlety never works. Everybody who is joined us over here should be vocal what it is to be like an Indian. What is so amazing about being an Indian? यार हमारे कहीं सड़क पे चले जाओ, कुछ नहीं चले जाओ, आपको पानी का गिलास दे देते हैं. मैं न्यूयॉर्क में एलिवेटर में था और एक ओल्डर लेडी एक कुत्ता लेके ऐसे घूम रही थी, तो मुझे हमेशा तरस आता है ओल्डर लोगों पर, तो मैं कुत्ते के साथ खेलने लग गया. मैंने कहा हेलो हेलो, मुझे कहती है he does not talk to strangers. तो मैंने उसको कहा कि जी I was not talking to him, I was talking to you.
Correct.
हमारे यहाँ क्या, हम कल्चरली कितने रिच हैं, हमारा पहनावा, हमारा खाना, आप गुजराती हो, बंगाली हो, आंध्रा हो, कहाँ की क्या क्या खाने मिलते हैं हमको. हम सेम चीज फिश एंड चिप्स वगैरह या बर्गर या मतलब कितना, बंगाल में मैं कलकत्ता में जाता हूँ, there is a whole set of Marwadi families. I enjoy the food in their house, unbelievable. I have some wonderful Bengali friends. I have amazing food. मैं तो सब जगह यही.
There are people on this. Mayank Jalan को बोलिए, next time he'll host a dinner.
He is already smiling. He has already made a note of it.
Yeah, boss, एक बात है, Marwadis in Calcutta smile, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll feed you. You have to put them down.
भी होगा and Marwadi spread भी होगा और गपशप भी होंगे sir. It will be my honor.
अच्छे host हैं आप सब.
No, I'll be keeping a track on your social media. Whenever I see that you're coming to Calcutta on any platform, I'll start bugging Herman for making sure that you come over for dinner.
Yeah, I will tell you.
On that note, Anupam, I must thank you and thank Mayank and all the ladies and gentlemen who've been on this webinar. Thank you for being here this evening. For me, it's not about Anupam Kher's new book alone. While the book is the best is today, but for me, it's also applicable to India. Today is our day of reckoning. Today is our day of shining, and we will shine. And I think that's what the amazing quality of this book is. On that note, thank you, and you have a splendid evening and a good night.
And Suhail, जितने भी यहाँ पर जुड़े हुए हैं, at least buy a copy and give it to the person you love the most, because that will show not that about the book, but that will show that you're really, really concerned about the person.
Why do you want them to exclude their wives? You should put that rider.
So before you go, I just want to say a few things. It's been one of the most exceptional evenings, and I think, honestly speaking, I can sit here and hear you and Sohail sir talk for hours, but I know both of you have commitments. So on behalf of Indian Chamber, I would personally like to thank you for taking out this time, and I would hand it over to Mr. Pradeep Sareka to propose the formal vote of thanks before we end the session. And sir, delay आपका क्यों रहा? मैंने note कर लिया है.
Thank you,
I
Mayank.
have known Mayank's father, M.K. Jalan, for years. I can tell you the food in their house and what they will give you is going to be exceptional.
I'm sure of that.
In fact, my father was so keen. He's been such a fan of yours for over years. So he's also insisted on joining. He's also on
And
the call.
Pradeep Sureka can bring the single malt or whatever.
Oh, definitely, Suhail. That will be the best. The best. We must find out what Anupamji's passion is.
All single malt, Glen Morangi to Yamazaki to